If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or a computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, Bombshells? Welcome to Bombshell 1111 Podcast, Therapy for Women of Color. My name is Keya, and I'm your host. Generally, podcasts request donations, but I want you to show love by simply subscribing to my social media platforms by visiting my website at www.bombshell1111podcast.com. I want to see thousands of subscribers on this platform. Leave your comments and I'll show love by shouting you out on my social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank you for your continued support as always. And with that being said, let's jump into this new episode. Bombshell 1111 Podcast, Therapy for Women of Color, where we discuss mental health and personal development. My name is Keya, and I'm your host. Tonight we'll be discussing personal development with our special guest, Tiffany Gardner. So let's get to it, Bombshells. Welcome, Tiffany. What's up?
Hey there. Great to be with you tonight.
Great to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the podcast. I'm so excited. I know that you're going to be able to drop a lot of knowledge and tools for us tonight. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the podcast.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure.
So, Tiffany, I did do a short description and, a short bio in the description for the listeners in the audience so they can know who you are, where you're from, and that type of thing. But I always allow the audience to get a short bio from my guests because who's better to tell about themselves than you? So can you just let us know a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Tiffany Gardner. I'm an international human rights lawyer. I started my career and really my passion in post-apartheid South Africa, working with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. From that time, I spent time doing community organizing and microcredit lending across West Africa, particularly in Ghana, did women's rights work in Cambodia, worked at the UN and Switzerland for a while doing international law. And then came back to the U.S. Right around the time of Hurricane Katrina, did grassroots organizing across the Gulf Coast, New Orleans, Biloxi, Mississippi. And now I am proudly the CEO of a nonpartisan national coalition called ReflectUS across the country to get women elected at the local, state, and federal level. So I'm very happy to be with you tonight.
I'm very happy to have you, and I just heard you say Biloxi, Mississippi. Shout out to Mississippi!
Yes.
Whoa. That is where I'm initially from. I originated from Mississippi, Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Actually, that's my hometown. So okay. Shout out to Mississippi. Yeah, that sounded very familiar when you said Biloxi.
Nice.
So I think that's a great concept and what you established and what you're doing for women. How did you even get the idea or the concept to do this, Tiffany?
Well, I really can't credit myself with this. I was, I had just left my work doing the organizing around Hurricane Katrina, and I was the director of a housing program, and we started a national coalition called the Coalition to Restore Housing, working with folk across the country, brown, white folk all across the country. This was during the 2005, 2008 mortgage lending crisis. So we were working with folks who had lost their homes due to predatory lending. We were working with Section 8 folks, homeless folks, public housing folks, and I was running that coalition. I left that role to start my own not-for-profit called One World Exchange. In that work, we work with young folks of color in college, and we send them abroad for the summer and for the semester to do international human rights and development work. And while in that role, I got a call and someone said, "Hey, we've heard about you. We've come across your bio, your profile, and we think you would be perfect for ReflectUS." And I thought once about it, thought twice about it. I finally applied, and here I am now running this coalition, and very happy to be here.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You sound timid, but congratulations. That's a major power move. And again, definitely for a woman of color. So again, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's a blessing.
You're more than welcome. And so where is this agency actually located, Tiffany?
Right. So I'm in New York City. So we're based in New York City. However, we work nationally. So ReflectUS is a coalition of 8 of the leading women's representation organizations. And as I say, we have something for everyone. So between the 8 organizations, we serve about 150,000 women a year and counting. Our organizations, the coalition, represents everyone from Higher Heights, which is the organization getting Black women elected. They were behind Stacey Abrams and Kamala Harris before anyone knew their names. We also have Ignite in our coalition, which is the organization training college women. We have Vote, Run, Lead, which does an amazing job with older women. We also have Latinas Represent, that is working with our Latinx community. APAC's working with our Asian American, API women. And we also have WPLN that's working with our center-right, more, moderate women, more traditional women. So as I said, the coalition represents all the different, or for the most part, all the different communities of women across this country, be it racial diversity, geographic diversity, partisan diversity, as well as age diversity.
And how does one get involved if they want to be a part of this movement?
And I love that you called it a movement. Keya, in all my work international, and I did begin my work, as I said, in post-apartheid. So my context has always been the international context. And I tell people, in this country, we have a crisis in our democracy. Mm-hmm. And that crisis looks different in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. And for the issue that I'm working on, it's a crisis of representation of women. So at most, let's take the U.S. Congress, for instance, that's only 27% women, while we're 51% of the population. If you look at executive offices, executive state offices, that's your governorship, your lieutenant governorship, that's only 26% women. And then at the local level, it gets even worse, right? We're about 25, 26%. So you're looking at a nation where 51% of the population only has, on average, 26% of representation, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean, right? So a lot of the policies that we're facing are made at the local level, are made at the state level, are made at the federal level. And these are policies that impact women, that impact families, therefore they impact women. And women have very little say in crafting those policies. So I tell people all the time that while our country is facing a lot of issues, this is an exciting time, I believe, because there's an opening for us to rethink our democracy and our way forward. An important time to have these conversations. So please get involved. Visit us at ReflectUS. We're having working groups thinking about these deep issues. How do we confront this crisis of our democracy? We're having trainings. All of our coalition members do amazing, outstanding trainings. If you think you want to run for office, please do, and get in touch with ReflectUS, and either we can help you ourselves, or we can get you connected to one of our amazing coalition members and they can get you plugged in, and then join some of our conversations. In fact, we're having an event on August 26th. If you visit our website, reflect.us, www.reflect.us, you'll see our event on the 26th talking about what are those systemic changes we can make to make our democracy more reflective and make it easier as a woman to run for office and be effective while in office.
And speaking of that's a great segue into my next question. Just from your work experience and what you're doing in the movement that you're representing, why do you think that sometimes it's challenging for women to be held in that higher regard in reference to getting selected for different leadership roles? Why do you think that that's such a big stigma in today's society?
Wow, what a great question, Keya. An amazing question. It's multifaceted. First, I'll start with the personal, and then I'll go to the societal. So, what we find is that, unfortunately for a lot of women, there's a confidence issue, and that really shows itself out in different arenas and in different areas. And the political leadership field is not immune to that. So a lot of times we'll have women come to us and they say that, and anecdotally that, you ask a man to run for office once, maybe twice, and he's on board and he's trying to run for the highest office there is. You ask a woman repeatedly to run, and she'll come back with, I'm not prepared. I'm not qualified. I don't have enough knowledge in that area. And she'll be just as credentialed as the man is, yet there's this, what we call imposter syndrome, where she feels like she's just not qualified. And again, and I'm sure you can appreciate that this sort of imposter syndrome runs across fields in our country. Definitely is shown when it comes to political leadership, convincing women that they are qualified. You don't have to be the expert. You don't have to know everything to run for office. So that's the personal. And then you just have, the structural, right? The way that we have crafted political leadership, which is leadership in our country, it's definitely a game for the well-resourced, right? That's across race, across income, across gender. It's for the well-resourced. What do I mean by that? So, for instance, one of the things that we ReflectUS is really advocating against, or for, I should say, as well as others in the field, is that when you're running for office in a lot of states and you're, collecting your war chest, you're getting those donations, campaign finance money can be used a number of things. But the one thing it can't be used for in the majority of states is childcare. So who is that going to impact? If I'm a mother of small children or a mother of children, period, I need to be out in the campaign. I need to be shaking hands, meeting people, making speeches, get home watching the kids, right? So issues such as that. Also, incumbency, right? So you have party leaders, party bosses behind incumbents when it comes to primaries, right? They get all this support. Once elected, right, who gets to, head up the special committees, who gets to chair, the committees, and then therefore who gets to set the agenda are incumbents. And by and large, that's a game of male power, because they have by and large, been in office longer, hence, more likely than not, they'll be the incumbents. So these are all the different ways that both personally, but then as well systemically, women are waited from running for office, or the barriers are such that it makes it more difficult for them to make that choice than men.
And so, Tiffany, how can ReflectUS assist a woman in moving forward when everyone else is telling her, no, this is not a good idea for you to run for office? How can you guys assist in helping that woman move forward with that idea and being elected for office, if that's something that she's choosing to do when everyone else is telling her, no, it's not a good idea, maybe because there's less women running and more men, or whatever it may be with that particular state or issue?
Exactly. Two things: community and training. So the first is there's a community for anyone, and I do believe this includes men. Running for office can be a very daunting task. And I think I hope that most people who do decide to pursue elected leadership do so with a sober mind, because there is a lot of power in crafting the policies that impact Americans. And there's a lot that goes into that decision, whether or not one runs for office, right? So for women, we provide community. And I think, and this is why I'm so in love with your podcast, because you understand the power of community, right? This isn't sort of a softball issue. This isn't sort of a fluffy issue, but it can be very isolating for anyone, and particularly it can be isolating for women running for office. We have done studies on this. We have quite a few issue briefs researching this particular issue. The attacks on women when they run for office most times go beyond just the policy. I don't agree with her policy, which is fine, but it goes to the personal, much more than it does for men. So just creating that community of support for them, that community of womanhood that says, hey, I've been there, or I'm going through that as well, and I get what you're going through. So again, through our 8 coalition members, our 150 plus women that we're serving across the country, we have a community of support. That's A. And then B, the training, right? So everyone from Higher Heights to Vote, Run, Lead to She Should Run does amazing training, right? A lot of our women, again, don't necessarily need that kind of support because they're already there, but it is helpful. You know what I mean? So everything from Robert's Rules of Orders to how to build a campaign staff to how to fundraise. And in fact, ReflectUS, we have an incubator project that we're doing out of Texas with working class women, because we quickly realized that was a gap in the work, that we're talking about women, but we want to make sure that we're not just focusing on well-resourced women. So we're really going on the ground and pulling up those leaders in communities, working class women. And as a part of that, we do provide a stipend, and we do provide training, financial literacy training, financial goal setting training for the candidates of our fellowship program. So again, if anyone listening is remotely interested in either holding elected office, or being a part of someone's campaign, or being a part of someone's chief of staff, or being a part of policy making, please see us at ReflectUS, and we'll plug you in and get you connected to the community and to the movement.
Oh, that is so awesome. I love that. I love that because there are so many young people that have a high interest in politics and things like that. Especially the new millennium, Tiffany, they are really into that, and they have a strong sense of freedom of speech, so to say, and they're not scared to speak. And I think this is something that will be very, very beneficial for them. So I hope that you guys are really digging into this and listening and getting this feedback from her, because I think with 2021, how things are forever changing within our world, this is a great resource. ReflectUS is a great resource. Yes. Not only is it empowering. Go ahead, Tiff. Oh, very quickly, and I'll say you're absolutely right, sis. And what I'll say is, what gives me hope. And again, I talk about this crisis in our democracy. I say, and again, here I am, the international human rights lawyer. If I were in, Belarus, or if I were in, Tanzania, or if I were in Ecuador, or if I were in Vietnam, and if I gave you these appalling numbers of women in political leadership, OSI would be up in arms, and the UN would be up in arms, right? We're doing reports about this and getting more women active politically. And I think because of U.S. exceptionalism, no one's talking about this crisis. But to your point, what gives me hope and what makes me excited about this work is seeing the young people, and in particular seeing the young women across the aisle, across the racial divides, really taking ownership of their country and saying, we're not doing it this way anymore. Yes. I do think that, having women in office like Kamala Harris has been a boon and a boost to the work. Again, not that we're there, back to that 26%, not that we're there, but I do feel a sea change, as it were, in the atmosphere. And I do think this is a time, to your point, Keya, that we embrace those young women, those women, those older women, and that we don't push the door, but that we really kick the door through. Yes, amen. And you are just leading right into my questions I have for you. About leadership. And I want to kind of ask you a question in reference to a personal question in reference to leadership, because you are a great leader in what you're doing for women. How did you reach your level of success given the sector's gender gap? How did you reach your level of success, especially among leadership and with other women?
Wow.
And being a woman of color at that.
I think everyone has that foundation where they start. And my foundation is twofold. It's my faith and my parents. So I'm a Christian, and I'm a very proud Christian. And I'm one of those Christians that really hold tight to the philosophy of liberation theology. What do you do for the widows and the orphans? And that's how I've tried to live my life. And in the work that I've done from, again, South Africa to Cambodia to Hurricane Katrina, to the UN, and to my work with One World Exchange, sending our college kids abroad, it's been the widows and the orphans. What do you to these, right? Whatever, Jesus said, whatever you've done to the least his I'm African American, very proud of that heritage. Both of my parents came up in the segregated South under Jim Crow. They were, praise God, able to do very well. I'm a lawyer, my sister's a doctor, but I also understand that coming out of that experience, there were and continue to be a lot of challenges for African Americans. And although my sister and I have done extremely well, not everyone has. So feel an obligation in that way to the community. And I think, honestly, I was a corporate lawyer for a while, right after law school, working on Wall Street, doing high-powered deals and making a whole lot of money, and said, you know what, this is not what my calling was. I read a book by Rick Warren called Purpose Driven Life while I was at the law firm doing high-powered deals, pulling all-nighters, and said, Lord, where would you have me? And since then, it was a very fine firm called Skadden Arps. It's an amazing top-rate firm. But since that time, leaving Skadden and leaving with some very good relationships, and very good friendships, since that time, I've done what spoke to my soul. And I think if there's my success, as it were, it would probably be in that, my faith and the legacy of my parents.
Oh, wow. I think that you said the most important thing when you said doing something that is your purpose. Because if you're not doing what your purpose is, no matter how much money you're making, Tiffany, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're just
That's
not.
Right.
It's just going to be a job. Yeah. So I think that's very, very, for me, that's what keeps me motivated and keeps me going. Because in addition to the podcast, I also work in mental health. And that's
very nice.
As well. Yeah. And so giving back to the community and trying to, like you said, coming from a less fortunate place in my childhood. And now that I'm able to be in a somewhat better, comfortable position, I'm wanting to help others that are less fortunate. And that's what it's all about. Yeah. So totally agree.
And I will say this. Say to the folks listening is that for me, I've come to appreciate that your passion a lot of different ways. So your passion could be public service, but your passion could be private sector too. So I undergrad, and he's in the private sector. He's in banking. And I've come to learn and appreciate that for your listeners. If your passion is the private sector, if your passion is building wealth, to have too. So that's okay. And especially as a community, and as an African American community, make sure what you do, whatever that passion is, that you do it unto excellence, and that you do it with the view towards the community, and at some point giving back to the community.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with that. So, Tiffany, before we head out tonight, can you allow the listeners just one more time, for those who didn't get it, where they can come and check out your information that you spoke on tonight, and if they want to reach out and connect with you, if someone is potentially wanting to run for office or just get involved, how can they contact you guys?
Yes, we have ways. First, you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Tiffy, T-I-I, Gardner, G-A-R-D as in David, N as in Nancy. Instagram handle. You can also reach me at Twitter, same handle, Tiffy Gardner. ReflectUS, our website is reflect.us. Our Instagram handle is the same, reflect_US. Our Twitter is reflect_US. Please visit our website. There is a ton of information, publications that can get you started. Reach out to me directly. DM me. Again, Tiffy, Tiffy, Gardner. DM me. I'll get you connected to folks. And if you're considering it, thinking about it, maybe not, please reach out. Our country, our nation, our world is in dire need of committed, solid, responsible leadership. And I see so much of that coming from women of all generations, all backgrounds, and we need you. We need you. We need you.
Thank you so much for that, Tiff. And before we head out tonight, is there one piece of advice you would like to leave the audience with?
You know, I would say go forth unafraid. Over the course of my career, I've seen a lot. Over the course of working in different countries, and a lot of my career has been in post-conflict regions, be it South Africa, be it Cambodia after the Khmer Rouge. I would even say in a lot of ways, the U.S. is post-conflict, given the racial conflict that has happened over the course of history in this country that we're still grappling with. With that being said, I haven't felt, although there's a lot happening, and there is, felt a more optimistic time to be in this world and in this country. Stuff is so open and there's so much opportunity. So I would say, do it. Unafraid. And now's the time.
Yeah, now is the time. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on and being part of the podcast. I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and tools. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. And thank you so much for giving back to the community and empowering women, and women of all colors. So again, Thank you so much for coming on and being a part.
My absolute pleasure.
And you guys, that brings us to the close of this podcast episode. Thanks, Tiffany, for joining. We hope that you were able to hear something beneficial to you. If you enjoyed our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to come back next Sunday at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And with that being said, you guys, always remember, you are a bomb within your own shell. Peace, love, and light, you guys. Good night. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate, review, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some valuable information that can help you on your personal journey. Also, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Bombshell1111 or at Bombshell1111 TV. You can also check out our mental health page, Your Health is Your Wealth, on Facebook, which is a page created to inform and support individuals with mental health and other health conditions. And with that being said, always remember, you guys, you are a bomb within your own shell. And until next time, peace, love, and light.